prepared to support, if anything, and I expect to get an answer to that next week.
Well, I mean, that's what Moscow Mitch says. But I mean, you look at this guy's legacy, and it's going to be two things. I think right now, Richard Ossie's going to have the legacy of basically doing the work of Vladimir Putin, an ex-KGB agent, and Russia, who Mitch McConnell's been told by the FBI, the CIA, the Director of National Intelligence, the United States military, he's been told by everybody that Russia is trying to interfere and disrupt our democratic process, that we are under attack. And so Mitch McConnell is killing Republican bills like Marco Rubio's and Democratic bills that would protect the homeland from this attack from Russia. And Moscow Mitch is doing nothing about it, but he's killing every bill, including Marco Rubio's bill that simply says if we catch somebody interfering with American democracy, we will put sanctions on them. Moscow Mitch killed that bill, too. Moscow Mitch has killed every single bill that the intel community has said will protect America. So that's his legacy, not protecting us from enemies foreign. And what about his legacy protecting us from domestic enemies? People that would shoot children, first graders, the Friday before they go home for Christmas holiday with AR-15s, or people that would shoot wildly from their car in Odessa, Texas, and shoot 17-month-old babies in the back seat of their cars, or would shoot up people going to worship Jesus in Texas churches to do nothing about it, or shoot up people going to Walmart for back-to-school shopping. But Mitch McConnell, just like Moscow Mitch, won't do anything in protecting us from foreign enemies. He has been the one person that has killed every one of these bills to protect us from our domestic enemies that are gunning down our children every day. What's his end game? What's his legacy? Where does it end? Who supports Moscow Mitch doing Vladimir Putin's bidding and killing Republican bills to secure the homeland against Russian interference that Donald Trump's FBI director, CIA director, Director of National Intelligence, and military intel have all told Moscow Mitch, Russia is invading this country and we need to protect the homeland. Even Kirstjen Nielsen, when she was the head of the Department of Homeland Security, said, this is a threat to American democracy. He does nothing against our foreign enemies. He does nothing against our domestic enemies. What is his legacy?
Well, I think the legacy is pretty clear. It's unilateral surrender in terms of protecting American democracy. By the way, not just against Russia, but conceivably against North Koreans, Iranians, Chinese, and others. We're not taking the steps we should. We're not fighting back. On gun control, we're not doing anything. And background checks are necessary but not sufficient. Other countries have mental illness at roughly equal levels of prevalence. So mental illness cannot be the only factor that's shaping American gun violence. Obviously, availability of certain weapons is part of it. His legacy will also be, I think, undermining the functioning of the Senate when it came to Supreme Court nominations. The Garland nomination, whatever you think about Garland versus Kavanaugh, the idea that the United States Senate would not act, for you're basically arbitrarily saying we interpret the Constitution to mean that a president can't appoint a Supreme Court justice in the last year and a half of his term. Where did that come from? Conservatives are meant to believe in process and institutions. And what we have are conservatives who no longer believe in processes or institutions. And just, we'll get to it later, I expect, but the contrast between so-called conservatives in the United States and those in Britain is really on display. And we saw, I actually think, and we'll get to the story, but the difference between people who really embrace conservatism as opposed to, if you will, partyism, and the difference between both sides of the Atlantic right now is quite impressive.
It's now, Steve, it's Trumpism. It's not conservatism.
Right,
but
I